a galaxy ruled by unbreakable laws, a human soldier touches the forbidden skin of an alien queen before the entire royal court. The punishment should have been death. But instead, the queen whispers one impossible command. Touch me. Again. That single moment awakens an ancient fire buried in human blood, forgotten by time, feared by empires. Now, enemies rise, prophecies awaken, and something older than the stars begins to move. He was just a soldier. Now he might be the last god. If you're new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move to this wonderful story. The great hall of Navor was cold and silent. Walls of dark crystal rose high into shadows, and silver flames flickered in tall glass towers. Rows of alien nobles stood still, their skin glowing faint blue, their long robes brushing the stone floor. Their faces were hard and unreadable, eyes like glass mirrors reflecting nothing. At the far end of the hall, Queen Siorazine sat on a throne carved from black stone. Her crown hovered above her head, slowly spinning as if moved by invisible winds. She did not blink. She did not speak. Her hands rested on the arms of the throne, still as the stars. The silence broke when the heavy doors creaked open. Two armored guards stepped inside, dragging a bloodied human between them. His name was Corin Vale. His face was cut, his eyes swollen shut, and his uniform was torn and stained with mud and fire. One arm hung limp at his side. He looked weak, but not afraid. "Kneel," one of the guards hissed in a sharp voice. Corin dropped to one knee, breathing hard. But he did not bow his head. Queen Siora tilted her head slightly. Her voice, when it came, was soft like distant thunder. "You crossed the burning fields to rescue your commander," she said. "Why?" Corin raised his eyes. "He was my friend." A hush passed through the nobles. They whispered the strange word. Friend. Their kind did not understand such a thing. Loyalty among humans always puzzled them. The queen stood slowly. Her long silver dress flowed behind her like smoke. She stepped down from the throne, each step echoing across the crystal floor. The air shifted. Some nobles drew back. No one had seen her leave the throne in many seasons. Corin watched her approach. He had faced death many times, but this woman, this queen, was something else. She did not look cruel. She looked lonely. She stopped in front of him. "You are not my enemy," she said. "Thank you," he answered, his voice steady. "But if you mean to kill me, do it quickly." Her eyes narrowed. "Do you fear death?" "No," he said without pause. "I fear nothing." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then slowly, she lifted her hand. "No," someone shouted from the back of the hall. "A male must not touch the queen," others cried out in protest. The guards raised their weapons, but Siora did not stop. Her hand reached forward and touched Corin's face. He flinched, not from pain, but from surprise. Her skin was warm. Gasps filled the room. The laws of Navor were clear. No male was allowed to touch the queen. Such an act was considered sacred or forbidden. Corin looked up. Her eyes, once cold like glass, now shimmered with life. For a moment, the court disappeared. Only she and Corin remained. Again, she whispered. "What?" he asked, unsure. "Touch me again." His hand trembled, but he obeyed. Slowly, gently, he touched her hand. Her fingers curled around his. The hall erupted in shouting. Nobles screamed. Guards stepped forward. "He must die," a voice yelled. "He has broken the law." But the queen raised her arm, and everyone stopped. She looked down at Corin. "Who are you?" "Corin Vale," he said, confused. "Private of the 7th Earth Division." The queen looked into his eyes. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You are not the first." His heart skipped. "What do you mean?" She turned to the crowd. "This human is not to be harmed. He will stay in the palace." A noble shouted. "He touched you. This is shame. No, Siora replied. This is change. Confusion spread. The guards looked at one another, unsure. Corin stood slowly. Why are you protecting me? The queen did not answer. Instead she said, You will walk with me. Walk? He asked. Yes, she replied. Beside me. That single phrase shook the empire. No human had ever walked beside the queen. Nobles shouted, some cursed, some whispered of madness. But she ignored them all. Siora turned and walked toward the garden doors, and Corin followed. As they passed the guards, some lowered their eyes. Others glared with hatred. They stepped into a private garden, lit by soft golden sky. The walls were covered in blue flowers that glowed gently. Birds with crystal feathers flew overhead, silent and slow. She sat on a bench made of smooth stone. Sit, she said. Corin hesitated, then sat beside her. For a moment they said nothing. Then she spoke again. Long ago, my kind feared yours. Corin looked at her. Humans? Why? Because you feel, she said. Because you love. We do not understand that. Corin's gaze dropped to her hand, the same hand he had touched. And now? He asked. She stared at her fingers. Now I remember. Remember what? But she didn't answer. Instead, she looked toward the palace. Deep inside its foundation, something stirred. In a chamber long forgotten, gears turned. Red symbols blinked to life. A voice, old and hollow, echoed. He who touches the queen brings the return of the first flame. In the garden? Siora turned back to Corin. Her face was calm, but her voice was different now. Lower, more certain. They will not sleep tonight, she said. Who? The court, the empire, the ones who fear what you've awakened. Corin frowned. I don't understand. You will, she said, and far above, across the sky of Navor, a single star blinked. Once, then vanished. Something had begun, something no one could stop. The wind whispered softly through the tall spires of the palace. Clouds above glowed violet, shifting slowly across the sky. Inside the palace, silence held heavy over the golden halls. The servants moved with quiet steps, avoiding the chamber where the human was kept. Corin Vale sat alone in a round room lit by golden stones. The bed was untouched. A tray of food sat cold. He had not moved in hours. He stared at the floor, his fingers slightly trembling. He was not afraid, but something inside him felt wrong. Or maybe it felt too right. His thoughts were broken by the sound of a door opening. Queen Siora Zin entered, this time without her crown. She wore a simple robe, made of dark silk, and her silver hair was braided behind her shoulders. There were no guards with her, just her, calm and quiet. You still have not eaten, she said, stepping forward. I'm not hungry, Corin replied, not looking up. That is a lie, she said. He sighed. Yeah, maybe. She sat across from him, folding her hands in her lap. Her eyes studied him with the same unreadable gaze she always wore. You touched me, she said softly. You asked me to, he answered. Yes, she said, and now I must ask you something else. Corin's jaw tightened. Go ahead. I want you to join my royal guard. He blinked, confused. Me? Yes, he shook his head. You have a whole army. Why would you need me? Her voice dropped. Because none of them ever made me feel human. Corin leaned back slowly. His face was tired, his wounds not yet healed. I'm not human enough to even understand that. You are more than you believe, she said. When you touched me, something woke in me. Something old. Something I did not know was still there. Corin looked at her now. Really looked. She wasn't just a ruler. Not just a queen. There was something else in her eyes. Something lost. What woke up? He asked. I want to show you, she said. She stood and motioned him to follow. He hesitated, then stood too, His steps were slower than hers. His bruised leg still ached, but curiosity pulled him forward. They walked through narrow halls lit by vines that glowed white and gold. They passed rooms filled with glass orbs and strange machines. Finally, they came to a large door carved from dark stone. Symbols danced across its surface, changing like reflections in water. "This place is sealed," Siora said. "It has been for 10,000 years. Corin stepped closer. He felt something strange, like a heartbeat under the floor. The stone shimmered as he approached. "It's reacting," he said quietly. "To you," she replied. He reached out. His fingers brushed the door. With a sudden pulse, the stone cracked down the middle. Light poured out. The door split open without a sound. Inside was a chamber untouched by time. Dust floated in the air. Stone pillars rose high, covered in symbols Corin didn't recognize. In the center of the room stood a mirror. But it was not glass. It looked like still water caught in stone. "What is this place?" he asked. "A memory," Siora answered. "A place where the past waits." She stepped forward and touched the mirror's surface. It shimmered and changed. Images flashed. Stars, cities, ancient faces. "Long ago," she began. "Before my empire, before the rules, there were humans. But they were not like you. They were more." The mirror showed glowing beings with fire in their hands. They healed wounds. They moved stars. They walked among Siora's kind not as enemies but as protectors. "We called them the Flameborn," Siora whispered. "They were powerful, too powerful. When darkness came, they fought it, and they won. But the cost was too high." "What happened to them?" Corin asked. "They disappeared, vanished. We thought they had been destroyed. But the truth was, they hid." "Hid where?" "Inside their children," she said, looking at him. "Inside blood. Inside you." Corin stepped back, shaken. "No, that can't be." "When you touched me," she said, "you opened a seal that was never meant to be opened. And now the old powers stir." He turned from the mirror. "I'm just a soldier. I fought in the mud. I watched friends die. I never had any power. You do now," she said. "You always did. It was just sleeping." A deep hum echoed from the walls. The symbols glowed brighter. Far above, in a forgotten tower, another machine lit up. Its eyes opened for the first time in centuries. In the Grand Council chamber, nobles were already gathering. News of Corin's presence had spread. Their voices were angry. Their hands gripped old weapons. "This human must be removed," one said. "His touch brings danger." "His touch brings truth," Siora answered, but they did not listen. Meanwhile, in a quiet room, a servant girl named Saren Kell watched from behind a curtain, her eyes wide, her heart racing. She had seen the mirror's light. She had seen what the Queen had seen. She knew what it meant, and she knew what the old book said. When the Flameborn returned, so would their enemy. Outside the palace, clouds began to swirl. The air grew still. The wind no longer whispered. It waited. And somewhere deep beneath the stone, a shadow opened its eyes. The awakening had begun. The arena of Navor was unlike anything Corin had seen. It was not made of metal or stone, but living crystal that hummed beneath his feet. Rows upon rows of alien nobles sat in a massive circle, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Torches burned with blue fire, casting long shadows that danced across the walls. At the center of it all stood Corin Vale, wearing a simple black tunic and no armor. The fabric clung to his wounds, still healing from the war. He held no weapon. His hands were empty. Opposite him stood the Empire's greatest warrior, champion Ruvak Drain. Ruvak was a mountain of muscle wrapped in silver armor. Ancient markings covered his chest plate, symbols of honor and victory. His skin gleamed with a royal shine, and in his hand he held a blade curved like a question, sharp enough to cut through stone. The nobles whispered among themselves. "He is just a human," one said. "He will fall in minutes," another replied. "This is a joke," someone hissed, "an insult to our traditions." But Corin did not flinch. He had seen death too many times to fear it now. Instead, His eyes searched the royal balcony above. There, Queen Siora Zin stood alone, her expression unreadable. A soft voice came from behind him. It belonged to Saren Kell, the palace servant, who had brought him water earlier. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. Corin gave a small smile. "Maybe, but I won't run." The horns blew. The trial had begun. Ruvak moved first, fast and brutal. He charged like a thunderstorm, swinging his blade in a wide arc. Corin ducked low and rolled away. He reached the weapon rack on the edge of the arena and grabbed the first thing he could find. A short metal rod. No blade. No shield. Just a stick of steel. The crowd laughed. To them, Corin was not a warrior. He was a toy about to be crushed. But Corin did not swing wildly. He waited. He watched. Every breath was measured. Let him burn his pride, Corin whispered to himself. Wait for the mistake. Ruvak came again, his strikes like falling stars. Corin dodged left, then right. He moved under the champion's blade and struck the back of Ruvak's knee with the rod. The metal cracked. A small sound, but in the silent arena, it was loud. Ruvak growled, more surprised than hurt. Then, he came again, faster. Corin slipped under another strike and jabbed the champion's side. A dent formed in the armor, small hits, fast hits, not strength, precision. The fight dragged on, 10 minutes, then 15. Ruvak began to slow. His movements grew wild, desperate. Corin kept dodging, striking, one arm, one leg, the ribs. Then blood began to drip from Ruvak's mouth. On the balcony, Queen Siora's fingers curled around the edge. She had not moved, but her eyes burned. After 20 minutes, Ruvak collapsed. Corin stood alone in the center, breathing hard. One shoulder hung at the wrong angle. Blood ran down his cheek. But he stood. The crowd said nothing. Not one cheer, not one sound. Queen Siora stepped forward. Her voice rang through the arena like lightning. Let it be known, she said, that champion Ruvak Drain challenged this human, and lost. A noble shouted, He is not one of us. The queen answered, No, and that is why he is stronger. Another voice cried, Your heart has been taken by a lesser species. The queen raised one hand. Listen to me. From this moment forward, there will be no more blood games, no more trials to earn my favor. Then how will you choose a mate? Someone shouted. She turned to Corin. I already have. The arena exploded. Some nobles screamed in anger. Others fell to their knees. Many simply stared in silence, unable to believe what they had seen. But in the shadows, one figure slipped away. A man in black robes, his face hidden beneath a mask shaped like a wolf's skull. He moved through the halls like smoke. The assassin had waited long enough. The old protectors of the Empire, the Order of the Silent Moon, had given him a task. Kill the human before sunset. That night, Corin walked alone through the palace halls. Pain throbbed in every step. His mind raced. He had survived the trial, but nothing felt safe. He turned a corner and froze. A blade flew through the air. He had no time to scream, but the blade never reached him. A wall of golden light appeared between him and the assassin. It shimmered like water pulsing with heat. The blade struck the light and melted. The assassin gasped. It's true, he whispered. The seal is broken. Corin fell to the floor, breath caught in his throat. The assassin struck again, faster, but the energy blocked every attack. It reacted to Corin's presence, surrounding him like armor made of fire. A sound rang through the hall. Not a voice, a scream. The queen had arrived. She did not walk. She glided like a storm wrapped in silk. Her eyes were no longer calm. They were fury itself. She raised her hand. The assassin flew backward, slammed into a wall, and dropped his blade. It melted before it hit the ground. Guards came running, but she ignored them. She knelt beside Corin. You're hurt, she said. I've had worse, he coughed. I have not, she whispered. Her voice trembled. I have never known fear, Not until you. Corin looked into her eyes. Why me? She helped him up, her hands shaking. Because you are not just a man, and I need to show you why. She led him through a hidden door, down into the depths of the palace, into a room where stars once slept, into a memory waiting to wake. Corin Vale followed Queen Siora deep beneath the palace. The air was cooler down there and the walls glowed with soft blue light. They passed through quiet tunnels, past doors made of old crystal, and halls lined with carvings of beings that looked both human and alien. Siora said nothing. Her eyes were focused, her steps sure. They reached a round chamber filled with floating dust and stone tablets. In the center stood a mirror, tall, cracked, and covered in vines. But it was not made of glass. It pulsed with light like a living memory. This is not a mirror, Siora said. This is memory. She reached out and touched the surface. The light spread slowly, forming shapes, colors, and voices. Corin saw a world not like his own. There were creatures that looked like her but younger and softer. Peaceful, kind. But they were not alone. Humans walked among them. Taller, their eyes glowing with fire. Their hands moved the air. Their voices shaped the stars. They healed with a touch. They spoke to planets. We called them the Flameborn, Siora whispered. They were not gods. They were real, powerful, and dangerous. The images shifted. Fire fell from the sky. Something black, formless, devoured cities. It moved without shape, without mercy. The darkness came, Siora said. The Flameborn fought it, but they could not destroy it, only delay it. So they vanished. Vanished how? Corin asked. They buried their fire, she said, in blood, in time. They hid it inside their children, waiting for the day someone would awaken it. Corin took a step back. You think that's me. I know it is you, she said. But I'm just a man. She turned to him. Not anymore. Suddenly the ground trembled. The mirror flickered. Distant bells rang from towers across the empire. The sky above the capital turned red, not from sunset, but from power. The ritual had begun. The sacred ground of first flame had not been used in 10,000 years. Only royals of the ancient line were allowed to stand there. But today, a human would walk into the circle. Corin stood bare-chested, strange symbols, drawn on his skin by Siora herself. The ash under his feet whispered with heat. He looked across the circle and saw her standing in robes made of smoke and light. Her eyes no longer just silver. They now burned with something older. They say this ritual is forbidden, Corin whispered. Then we make it unforbidden, she replied. The flames rose around them. The priest began to chant. Corin Vale of Earth, he called. Do you come by will? I do, Corin said. Siora Zin of the first line, the priest continued. Do you accept this soul? I do, she answered. They stepped forward, hand in hand, into the fire. The flame did not burn them. Instead, it swallowed them. Inside, the fire, there was no ground, no sky, only memory. Corin floated among stars. He saw her, not the queen, but the child she had once been, scared, alone. He saw himself as a boy looking up at the sky as a ship fell through the clouds. Was that my memory? He asked. Or yours? Both, she said. They're becoming one. The flame whispered to them. Share, merge, accept. Corin felt. Her pain, crowns, lies, betrayal. She felt his loss, war, sacrifice, loneliness. He wanted to pull away, but she held him tighter. Don't run, she said. Not from me. The flame exploded. Outside, the circle cracked. Nobles watched in fear. The fire turned white, the color of the first flame. Priests fell to their knees. The ground shook. Inside the flame, Corin saw everything. He saw the darkness, the hunger, the silence that devoured stars. He saw why the Flameborn had hidden. They hadn't died. They had become stars. And waited. The enemy had slept for a long time, but now it was waking. And it had felt his touch. She woke you. the darkness hissed. Now we come. Corin fell from the flame into Siora's arms. His skin glowed faint gold. What did you see? She asked. They're coming, he said, breathless. Who? He touched her face. The ones who killed your gods. In the chamber where the flame had burned, a new symbol had appeared. A hand holding fire. Beneath it, old words glowed. The bond is made. The stars will rise again. Far across the galaxy, ships reported strange signals. Moons went dark. Children drew shapes they had never learned. Old books wrote themselves in blood. Something had returned. Corin no longer walked like a soldier. He walked like memory. Something inside him had changed. Not just strength, something deeper. The old hunger moved toward them. Not with ships, but with silence. A pressure on the stars. Nobles gathered for a final vote. Many were afraid. He is a curse, they said. He is not one of us. But Siora stood tall. You fear him, she said. So do I. But not because he is dangerous. I fear him because he is true. Corin stepped forward. I don't want your throne, he said. I didn't ask for this. Silence followed. Then, he raised his voice. But I will not run. If you won't call me king, then call me shield. One by one, nobles bowed. Not to tradition, but to truth. And then the sky darkened. The black ships arrived. No lights, no engines, only hunger. A voice rang out from space, not in sound, in pain. You remembered. Now you will burn. Corin stood with Siora in the Queen's Tower. Are you afraid? She asked. Yes, he said. But not for me. Then, for who? For them, he said. They think they've come to kill a man, but they've come to wake a god. He stepped into the sky. No armor, no suit, only flame. The battle did not last long. The dark ships screamed. Their metal cracked. Their bodies turned to ash. They could not fight flame they had forgotten and Corin had remembered. When it was over, he fell to his knees before Siora. I remember what we were, he said. But not what we're meant to become. She helped him up. We become it together, she said. You and I, fire and memory. And the stars, once silent, now burned with light again.